and start. Howdy, everyone. Thank you guys all for coming today. Hopefully everyone is having good midterms. Everything's going well this week, but we have a really exciting event. Today we have our tech internship panel. This was an event we did last year, and it was, we got really good feedback, so we're doing it again. Today, we have 5 panelists here. They're all present with their cameras on. And basically how this is going to go, I'm going to very quickly, literally over one slide on the slideshow, talk about like what our org is for people who haven't been here or if this is their first time. Then we're going to have the panelists introduce themselves, and then we're going to go ahead and start the Q&A. So let us start. So we're the Google Developer Student Club. We are a student-run Google affiliated org here at Texas A&M, and we're one of thousands of chapters that exist worldwide. So obviously we exist at Texas A&M, and there's others at big universities like UT, LSU, you know, you name it. So the goal of our org is to promote the use of Google technologies in order to help the local community. And this could be, you know, something as small as like Bryan or College Station, or even, you know, within Texas or whatever you want. So yeah. So we hold workshops. We'll have collabs with other orgs or GDSCs. We actually had one last week with LSU over a Flutter event. We have community building events, social events, stuff like that. And if any of this sounds interesting to you guys, then make sure you guys head over to tx.ag/GDSC Slack in order for you to keep updated with all the events that are happening. And then if you want to be on our mailing list for emails on the events, then you can go over to tx.ag/GDSC mail. Yep, that's all I have for you guys. We're gonna go ahead and introduce our panelists. I don't even think I've told the panelists how this will work, but we have a slide for you. You can go ahead and talk about it. Introduce yourself. If you want to just elaborate on the stuff that's on the slide, then that's fine. So we're just gonna go in order.
Hey, I'm George. I'm a senior, Texas A&M, class of 22. Yeah, so I'm graduating this semester, and so in the fall, as of right now, hopefully it'll stay this way, but as of right now, I'm joining Coinbase in fall, so that's exciting. I've had 2 other internships previous to this, so I was at Amazon last summer, and then for the last 2 summers before that, I was interning at Audible. Yeah.
Cool.
Hey everyone, I'm Summer. Last semester I was interning at Facebook. Last summer I was at Uber. The year before that I was at Capital One. And I'll be returning to Capital One this summer as an intern as well. Facebook. And I'm graduating in December. I pushed my graduation back from this May to December.
Cool. I was gonna say some other, you're not going back to Capital One.
Yeah, well, they pay really well.
Yeah.
Unironically.
Okay, my name is Lakshika. I'm a comp sci major, junior, class of 23. Last summer I was a step intern at Google, and this summer I'm returning as a SWE intern.
Cool.
Howdy, everybody. My name is Paula Jeronimo. I'm actually not a computer science major, but I am doing a computer science minor and a business minor. But yeah, glad to be here with everybody. I interned with both Fargo and Facebook last year during the summer. Most notably, you know, Facebook, I did FBU as in their iOS teams, and that was pretty fun. So glad to see another Facebooker here. Well, now Meta is, you know, they call themselves now. And yeah, I'm going to be returning as a software engineer intern this summer. Yeah, so I'm currently a junior, and I graduate summer of 2023.
Awesome. Last but not least, Diva.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diva. I'm a junior computer science major. I'll be graduating actually in December 2022. So I interned last year at Fargo AI, which was like an AI-based startup. And then at GE as a software engineer intern. And then this summer, I'm going to Disney as a data engineer intern.
Cool. That was very awesome. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Everyone's beautiful faces are now on. The way this is going to work this is so what we're gonna do is I have questions pulled up on my screen. If anyone wants to ask a question, because this event is for you guys, for the people joining in, then you can use like the raise your hand feature. That's how I'm going to be doing this. If you have a question, I'll call on you and you can ask. But if no one has questions, like if we're just awkwardly sitting here, then I'm gonna ask some on the questions here. But I will say before we get to like the actual Q&A, I want everyone to go around and just say like the kind of work they did, just so people get a feel for like what you did at each company. And we're gonna go in the same order. So I'm gonna start with Samarth, then George, Dakshika, Paula, and then Deepa. So you're up, George.
Yeah, sure.
Oh wait, George and then Samarth. Sorry. I really messed that up.
Okay, I guess in terms of what I did, it was more, software engineering. I guess so. Like the first time was like kind of a web situation, web dev thing, and then the second time was like Alexa. I don't know. They made me do a bunch of crap. So, yeah.
Even George doesn't know. Okay, Samarth.
Yeah, I was doing full stack at Uber. They kind of just integrated me right onto the team. And at Facebook, it was some Python and some C. I was able to like C++, kind of like NLP stuff, but all software engineering.
Oh, am I next? What was I doing? My project was mostly with like data preprocessing, developer velocity stuff, software engineering. I'll talk more about it later when I talk about what the STEP internship is. Yeah.
For me, for the Wells Fargo internship, I basically was in their cyber assurance team, which is more IT based, information technology, managing their technologies across several headquarters and having to come up with presentations and basically being able to talk about what the technologies are, what their status is, et cetera, et cetera. And for Facebook University, the program that I was in, I was doing iOS programming in Objective-C, and I was able to develop my own app. And I didn't put it on the App Store though, but I was able to do my own app, and that was pretty fun. I had a lot of search query optimization, all that fun stuff.
For me, so at the startup that I interned at, I was kind of doing like a mix of everything because it was a pretty small company, but I mostly worked on like user experience and then quality assurance testing, and then also like proof of concept for like clients and things. And then at GE, I did like cloud computing stuff.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. I just want people to get a good idea what everyone did. Okay, so we're gonna open. So if anyone, you guys can raise your hand, and I'll call on you. But this is like a very relaxed panel. Anyone can ask anything they want if they're curious. And I would say if people can help me if I'm missing someone who's raising their hand, then just let me know. Okay, I don't think anyone's raising their hand, but I will ask the first question. What did each of you guys, and by the way, the panelists can answer, anyone can just unmute their mic. What did you guys like most about your job? This can be in particular about working in the tech industry, like what you like most about working in tech, or this could just be like, what do you like most about like your, like in particular, like the job you did at a company, so.
The thing that I liked was that it's very freeing in a way, because with my part-time job, I guess the one that I had on campus, it was very like, okay, my manager was breathing down my neck, like, okay, what are you doing today? Like, what work are you doing? What have you been doing, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, once you work at, you know, a tech company, they put a lot of trust on you and a lot of trust on you to tell them what you're doing as well, instead of the manager having to bug you all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say also just being able to like network at a company and meet like people, you know, in various teams and various roles, meet with leadership, meet with executives. And I think as an intern, I think most companies, they're really, you know, open to interns and they're always willing to like talk to you and stuff. So there's a lot you can learn just by meeting people and by networking.
I would also add like, so I had the opportunity to do like an in-person internship for the whole pandemic situation, and that really helped me sort of figure out what it's like to just sort of live on your own and be out there and explore different places you've probably never been to. And so getting like a test run of what it's like to be almost like a real adult before graduation was very eye-opening experience.
Yeah, I liked how they kind of integrated me right onto the team, and I was given full-time responsibilities. I was, had to make the stand-ups. I had to, and for my project, I had to interact with different people in the team, the product manager, namely design, iOS, Android engineers, and backend. Like I had to talk to everyone at least a couple times a month, to kind of keep on time with my project.
I can add a huge +1 to like whatever everyone said. Like I agree with that. I think something that I really liked about my internship was just the culture of the company that I worked at. Like Diva said, like being able to like network. Like I talked to like a lot of like higher level people, or like people who are like responsible for like a lot of people under them, and they were still very down to earth and willing to like answer questions, and like just to see that they could take time out of their busy lives to like answer questions that an intern had. That was very cool.
Awesome. Very different answers. Well, I guess some similar, but that's interesting to hear. Okay, Risa, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I actually have a question for Diva. Well, Diva, you talked about how like you intern at a startup, and then like GE is also like is pretty big. So like, what was your experience like working in like like a startup versus like a larger company? Like,
yeah, so that's a really good question, actually. It was kind of a big difference. I feel like at a startup, like, because it was smaller, first off, I knew like everyone in the office. And second, I think that my work had more of an impact on like the actual product that the company had, because, they're startups. So like they're still building their products and like whatever they're offering. And so like I could see my work like actually applied like right there. Whereas in a big company, you're working on like a small part of a really big project of, that's going to be used in some other big thing. So it's like you don't see your impact as much. So I think just culture-wise, very different. I personally am really glad I got to like see both. So yeah, if anyone's interested in like going kind of the startup route, that's also a really nice thing to try.
George, didn't you work at I don't want to say a nonprofit, but you worked at a small company before you worked at Audible?
Yeah, so I worked at like a ed tech company. It's like they do like, they have like an online education platform. Yeah, very small company, like 5 engineers. I can kind of second that. The work I did there felt a lot more meaningful, just because it was, there was a lot more responsibility that the thing you do actually will kind of go out there, because especially for these smaller companies, it's not like they have that much leeway to be able to just throw out work. So yeah, that was just a cool experience to have.
Awesome. Anyone have anything else to add to the panelists?
Yeah,
I'm gonna get to Brandon's question.
Yeah, sure. Really quickly, I'll add. I worked at Uber Freight, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a pretty small.
Yeah.
Business, but it's quite interesting. And I was able to push front end, back end code, and front end it shows up tonight or within hours. So that was pretty cool. It was kind of a small company feel inside a big company.
I remember you saying that in the dev meeting, Samarth. We were like Googling about that for I don't know how long. Brandon asks you guys, did y'all work on site, and if so, where?
Yeah, I guess since I'm unmuted, I'll go. I was able to see the San Francisco office and meet up with my team for Uber. Great office. And then yes and no, I guess. Facebook was online, like hybrid, basically. And a couple members of my team were in the New York office. So I met up with like the people in that division. It was like fully hybrid, and this summer they're planning on in person. But yeah, it's kind of like I didn't get to meet my team all at the same time, but it was, everyone was vaccinated, so it ended up working out. I don't know if that answered the question.
Did anyone else on site?
The Audible, I went to Newark, New Jersey, which was interesting, Northeast. So I was there for that summer, and then this last internship last summer, because COVID was kind of shutting down for the first time. The Amazon went like hybrid, and so I took that opportunity to work in the Bay, with restrictions, of course. So I kind of count that as half working in person. But I think both of those experiences were good. I think for just living on your own. I think the Audible one was especially cool just because there was like, you were kind of in a cohort of other interns. So we were kind of figuring everything out together, which was very nice.
And I also wanted to add that mine wasn't on site, but we did have the option to do corporate housing. So I took corporate housing up in New York City. Like I was legit living on the same street as Times Square. And it was just really cool being super close to everything. And although I was stationed to work at Menlo Park, California, the time difference was interesting. But yeah, you do have that option as a big tech company intern. You get corporate housing. You don't get to pay, like $4,000 a month just to live where you're living in order to work.
Interesting. Okay, I think Gabrielle, you asked your question first. I saw your hand raised. So she asked, what aspect of your college experience do you believe impacted the most when landing your internship? Was it a particular organization or experience, or was it another factor like networking and forming connections with interviewers?
Yeah, I can go. So I think for me, the biggest thing was having projects. My freshman, sophomore year, I led like a project for Aggie Coding Club. I was a project manager for that, and that gave me so many experiences to talk about, just whether it's like working with a team or, like kind of managing other people or like understanding different viewpoints. There was just like a whole array of experiences that came with that. And then my other big thing would be like hackathon projects. I think those also gave me a lot to talk about in interviews, with regards to kind of the same thing, like teamwork and learning new stuff in a short amount of time. I think projects are a big plus to have.
I can go next. For me, I think, when I applied for my internship, I was a sophomore at that time, like my first semester sophomore. And I had like in research experience from the summer before that. And I think that really helped me. I was also TAing for like CSC 121 and 121 at that time. And also like companies like to see who you are as a person. So I think having like leadership experience also helps. Those are definitely the things that helped me.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add that for me, something that really helped me, I think really helped me stand out in my interview was just talking about the projects that I did outside of class. Like I participated in some hackathons and some projects that I just did for fun. And the way that my interview kind of reacted to the way I expressed myself about them, he seemed to really like it. And he even asked more questions digging into it instead of just asking the same generic questions. I don't know. It felt like I was able to connect more based on that. So, yeah.
I think. Oh, sorry.
Man.
You can go somewhere. I actually saw you.
I guess on the technical side of college, helping you, Dr. Kaiser's CSE 430 class, supremely helpful. Even if you don't do amazingly well in it, it was just a great way to just bounce through questions, and having that accountability of having a grade due, that can help some people. Otherwise, I've been using interviewing.io. You can don't pay for it, but you can watch other people having been interviewed by engineers at big end companies. So one example is like Microsoft interviewer and then blank question, and you can watch, put that on 2x speed and just listen to someone being interviewed and how they approach it.
Yeah, I think I kind of built on what Paula said. the networking and sort of working on projects in organizations, oftentimes with these like behavioral interviews, they tend to like fish these situations and you have to kind of answer that. And so having that sort of experience working on a team gives you a lot of perspective on how to answer it, which could, really impress them. And then in general, joining orgs and stuff has been great just to meet other people who are kind of going through the same thing. If they're older than you, they might have internships they've been to, and then you can probably get some referrals, which is cool. Or you guys can just struggle together as you apply, which is of course important. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. That was a really good question. Shifan asks, what was the interview process like? I feel like this could be, you guys could really elaborate on this. If anyone wants to go.
I guess I'll go first. For Facebook University, it was more like I had to do 4 coding problems on my own. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to do really well on them. I was doing the coding problems. I think I didn't finish one. And I remember being like, I'm not going to get chosen for this. Like, what's the point of me continuing doing these coding problems? Like, whatever, I might just close the window. But then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to finish it. So I ended up finishing it. And then after that, I got the behavioral interview invite. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I had to wait like a month until I got the yes or the no if I was going to join their team. But I think now it's more on, what's it called? Like first come, first serve, instead of waiting for all the potential interns to get interviewed and then moving on like that.
I can go next. I can talk about, I interviewed for the STEP internship, and it just has 2 technical interviews. That's literally all there is. There's no behavioral. I think based on what class year you are, one of the interviews might be behavioral, but I was a sophomore interviewing for STEP, so both of my interviews were technical. Sorry about that. I don't know if you all heard it, but anyway. I think for my interviews, for Google, like the interviews are over phone, so you don't really see the interviewer, and you're writing in like a Google Doc kind of a software. And it's very interesting because like you don't have to worry about too many syntax specific things, which I'm normally like the interviewers won't really care about. But like just like communicating what you're thinking and all of that is really important. I was able to solve the questions, but I had a lot of help from my interviewers, which was really nice. So I think communicating really helps because like if you're going down the wrong path, they can like stop you before, you go too far.
For me, so my current, like the upcoming summer internship at Disney, the interview process, it was like a phone screen. And then it was like a mix of technical and behavioral, but it wasn't like coding technical. It was just like them asking you about like what technologies you knew and like your proficiency and stuff. And then I had a panel with my team. So it was like 4 people video call. And that's the team that I'll be working on. And that was mostly behavioral, but they also asked some like specific technical, like conceptual questions. But I've also had interviews that have been like, they give you like a coding question, like a coding assessment. And then I had one where there was like a take-home coding question and then a technical interview based on your solution to the take-home coding question, and then a behavioral interview, and then another behavioral interview. So like there's kind of a whole range of, interview styles. But yeah, my current one was just 2 like over the phone behavioral.
Yeah, I'll add that most internships will be like general, like, okay, you're an intern. Let's say you apply to Amazon. I think they had, correct me if I'm wrong, like somewhere between about 8,000 interns in the 2021 calendar year throughout, summer, spring, fall. And that's just, they might not do a team by team interview for a big company like that. But then maybe for full time, you might have, how much does GPA matter? Sorry, that just popped up. It doesn't. That's a whole nother.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that.
Back to the original point. Yeah, it varies, but if you're going full time, then you might be interviewing with a specific team, and that's where you'll be. For me, I had team selection. So if that's a concern for you, I wouldn't be too, like, oh no, I'm going to go to this team. It's not really that interesting. You can find there's an interesting aspect of every team at every company. And I think I wanted to do Uber Maps first because that's like very graph math and stuff. That's very interesting to me. But I wasn't pleased with that, and I actually had a better experience at Freight. So.
Do you have anything, George? You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Okay. I mean, basically, yeah, it's kind of what everyone said. It's usually technical and behavioral. I think Amazon, it was like too technical, and then maybe three. Actually, it's just 3 technical. That's it. There was no real behavioral part to it. That's usually the case. I think for bigger companies, Audible, they had like a behavioral after like 1 technical screen. They were definitely a lot more chill, in my opinion. But yeah.
Okay. Marielle asks, what is it that you think set you apart from other applicants that secured your internship, at least to your knowledge?
I don't know. Well,
it's a hard question, honestly.
It's a hard question. I think it's just sort of, there's some luck probably, if we're being real, but like I think part of it is just sort of being savvy as an applicant and making sure you're finding the right opportunities and taking them, and even in the interview process, making sure you're answering the questions right and knowing what they want, and of course like confidence too. Just like pretend you're the best, because if you pretend enough, you will just be the best. So that's just sort of what you got to do.
I think I could also speak. Anyone else can elaborate, but I just wanted to point out, I think the most important thing that sets you apart is just being proactive. I think there's a lot of people that will like apply to a few companies and they're like, oh, that's enough. But there is literally no downside, right, to just being proactive and like applying to a lot of companies. Obviously that will just increase your chances, but I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and for preparing for the behavioral interview, since that was going to decide for me, like if I was or wasn't going to get it, I talked to other people who went through the same behavioral interview, and I asked them for tips. I think that personally helped me set myself apart, because I focused a lot on the company's goals and like trying to fit myself into like their company culture, and kind of making the interviewer envision like me working there. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but basically just trying to make your responses fit, their views, the company views.
I would add on a little bit to that. For me, I did a little bit of research going into like my final round, just on like what the company, like their like new recent, tech projects. And I think luckily I had an opportunity to bring that up in my interview. Like it wasn't a direct question, but they asked me about something that was related, and I kind of brought up the fact that I knew about their project, and I think they liked that. Hopefully, I don't know, but yeah.
Okay. Jesus, which by the way, you have been to every event so far, so I love you. But he asks, what resources did you guys use to find these internships, i.e. LinkedIn?
I found before I just applied straight to the company, but there is a GitHub page with like summer-2022-internships and like fall 2022 internships. And it's not any code or anything. It's just like a README table with just links to it. So if you see a company, you can take that approach. You can take the shotgun approach, I guess they call it. But yeah, well, whatever works for you.
Yeah, I also went through that GitHub, and then LinkedIn too. I had like a search alert for specifically like computer science roles, and then you can even like target locations. It's like I wanted to go to the west side, so I did that as well. And then on top of that, I think so. Like there's that shotgun approach, which you do, and then and then on the side, I also like went through like personal connections. So like I asked around. I DM'd people on LinkedIn being like, hey, if you guys have referrals for internship position. I think that in particular was really helpful for me freshman year when, usually they don't hire freshmen for interns. So sort of digging through personal connections to find that, I think helped me get past that.
Yeah, referrals are really good. I wasn't referred, but I was reached out by a recruiter and I kind of talked to her a bit and she told me to send her my resume and then that was that. Like we didn't really keep in touch or anything. So that might have not helped me. But aside from that, also just talking to people in the orgs that you're in and telling them about what you're interested in. You might have somebody tell you, oh, I partook in this one. I'll tell you more about it. Like I went to the TAMU Datathon my freshman year and through LinkedIn, I just, you're a freshman and you're connecting with like literally everybody that you meet. So somebody from A&M reached out to me and they were like, oh, I'm saying this to every freshman that's adding me. This is an opportunity for you to go to FBU, whatever, tech internship. It's cool. And I mean, I just heard it was a big tech company and, it's internship. Any experience is good experience. So I didn't get to apply, but I applied my sophomore year, but I just knew that it existed. And, you might want to apply to some, you might not want to apply to some, but just knowing that exists and talking to people about what you're interested in might get you some opportunities.
Quick side note, it's worth noting that 4 people in this chat or in this Zoom right now are Datathon members or organizers. So yeah, go to Datathon.
Got to rep, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have anything to add, Dakshika?
Not particularly. I think the GitHub and LinkedIn are pretty useful. I don't remember, but someone in my freshman year told me about like all of these freshman sophomore programs that the different companies have. So I kind of had it in the back of my head going into sophomore year that I had to apply to those. But yeah, I definitely used the GitHub.
Okay. Brandon asks, did y'all ever have imposter syndrome? I recently landed an internship for this summer and I feel like I won't be qualified. Just wanted to know how y'all felt, if y'all felt the same way and how y'all overcame it.
Okay, so for the imposter syndrome, that hit me because even just filling out the coding problems, I was already feeling like I wasn't, suited for the position. So once I actually got onboarded, it's kind of nice to have a talk with your manager about how you might feel. Not everybody, like this might not apply to everybody, but since it was like a sophomore year program, the managers really try to make you not feel the imposter syndrome. So it was good that I communicated with him. I told him about how I was feeling. And in a way, it also motivates you to work harder because, there might be somebody who's in the same intern program as you that's like, oh, I'm too good for this. I don't need to talk to my manager about my project. I don't need to talk to I don't need to talk to my coworkers about my project or anything like that. I'm just going to go to work, get it done. That's it. But if you're always being proactive, if you're always, in a way, it works to your advantage. The imposter syndrome works to your advantage. Always feeling to having to do really good work just sets you apart from everybody else.
I agree with that. I want to add one thing. I don't know who gave me this advice, but somebody told me once that so I know in your question you said that you landed an internship. So one thing is if they gave you an offer, they want you there and they know that you're capable of doing the work. So you kind of believe in yourself going into it. Imposter syndrome can be a thing when you start. But I'd say ask questions and just like Paul said, be proactive and use all the resources you have to your advantage. And hopefully that makes the experience a lot better.
Yeah, I think I'm probably just going to echo kind of the same sentiment of proactiveness. I think in particular for me, I think imposter syndrome also came in sort of the form of being just very overwhelmed, especially at the beginning of some of these internships. And so it kind of took me a long time to realize that I just need to communicate how I sort of feel to my team. And usually when you do that, you sort of get kind of actually reasonable responses. It's oh, it's not a big deal. You just got to do this, or you can get the help that you need. The manager is kind of not it's supposed to be on your side, right? So especially on those one-on-ones that you might have in your internship, as long as you just communicate effectively, or just communicate about how you feel, usually you can kind of get through it. And doing it early on is almost like impressive to them, right? Like if it's more impressive than someone who doesn't communicate.
Yeah, I just really want to emphasize communication because yeah, you might have all these feelings and you might have all these, questions, or like, oh, I don't want them to think I'm dumb. I don't want them to think I'm stupid, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just good to just talk to somebody like on your team. How do I do this? Talk to your manager. How do I approach this? Anything, instead of you just keeping it to yourself.
Okay. Very good answers and a very good question. Everyone, I'm sure at some point has felt imposter syndrome, even like in college too. It doesn't have to be an internship. Shifan asks, how important is it? Oh yeah, we already did the GPA. Thank you, Samar. How important is it to secure an internship in your sophomore year? I'll actually answer this because I didn't have an internship my sophomore year. I still got an internship at Amazon my junior year, and I'm a junior now. So that's my input.
Yeah.
Also, some companies. Oh, sorry. You can go,
you know what? You go first this time.
All right, cool. I think some I wouldn't stress too much about it. I think, especially just because usually recruiters almost want to get more juniors too, just because usually they want you to return the next year. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much. It's kind of a nice to have, not a need to have necessarily.
Yeah, and although wait, Smart, you were gonna go next.
Yeah, I will add that there's a good amount of undue pressure, especially I guess like having Indian parents and all. That like freshman year, sophomore, you should have an internship, and thankfully I was able to secure that. But I think even without having done so, just having a good I took 430 before my junior year, or during my junior year, so I actually would have been late if anything. But that is, I suppose, the good thing about tech interviews. There's a lot of complaints, of course, but you can spend about 2 months. Let's say, oh no, you don't land something this summer. Well, I mean, spend like 30 days, set up a good routine, open up lead code, and kind of review over online materials. There's so much out there. So if anything, it might actually free up time. And I've had some friends who experienced some level of complacency after receiving an internship for their sophomore year, and then for the junior year they get complacent, like, oh, I already have it in the bag, and they don't proceed to apply for more difficult companies, or if they do, they don't succeed. But yeah, I mean, just depends on what your calendar looks like.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that you, even though you're a sophomore, you don't really, I guess it isn't important, but it's also good to do something. Like if you don't have an internship, try doing research over the summer, or try having your own personal projects over the summer, something that you can work on. If not, get ahead with classes. Make sure that what you're learning in those classes, you're actually learning, and just not doing it because it's summer class. And yeah, that's all I had to say.
Okay. Maria asks, is it too late to land an internship for this summer? I guess beginning of March. Is it too late?
So big tech companies really want things filled up by what I see as interview season, August to like mid-November. I received both offers in December of the year before the internship. So actually, I suppose, like if you'd asked me a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I wouldn't say like, I've had a friend who got an offer. I got an offer from Amazon for the summer in January. So it just depends like when there was like a checkbox for like fall or spring. And it depends on like company. If it's a smaller company, for sure they'll like kind of take opportunities. And I think also you can probably look online on LinkedIn. And just like George was saying earlier, set up like a little listener, and that way it'll send you an email or something when a summer 2022 opportunity opens up.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Okay. no one has a question, I will ask if you guys could go back to before your internship started with the knowledge you have now, what would you do differently?
Nothing. I did perfect. No. Dakshika, unmuted. Go for it.
Oh, I was gonna ask a clarification follow-up. Knowledge, like you have more knowledge about the company, or like you're just more knowledgeable in general because you're older now?
No, I mean like you gain a lot of there's a lot of experience and a lot of growth that happens to you like as a person. Like maybe it was at the midway point of your internship that you were like, oh, I can communicate more, right? We emphasize communication. So like if you could go back, like would you communicate more? Like that's like one example of many. Does that help you?
Mm.
I could add, you could like I would keep a daily calendar of what you did, and usually at the end of I didn't do it at my first internship, and by the way, I was being totally sarcastic earlier. So like keep a daily log, and at the end of the internship you'll have a presentation probably, or you'll write something, send an email like a thank you and here's what I accomplished, and having at least a week by week breakdown of what you did, that kind of gives you a good strategy for communicating your progress. And it's also for yourself, like, oh, I learned this technology, I talked with this person, so I can tell you what I was doing on what day at Facebook, who I spoke to, someone with like a PhD who's helping me on understand this intricate topic, and that's valuable for me to look back on. So yeah.
I think I would be just kind of more open to communicating earlier. I think it took me a few weeks to realize that I could like ask questions to people, or like, set up meetings with random people and they would actually be willing to meet with me. So, if I had kind of done that earlier, I would have used up like the whole internship time and been able to like meet with more people. So just kind of don't be afraid to ask questions. Everyone, for the most part, is like willing to help you and is willing to like, everyone wants you to succeed. So like, just, use all the resources you have. But yeah, communication, I'd say.
Okay. Anyone else? Dr. Paula? Doctor, I know you have something to say. I clarified the question, okay?
I just had the clarification question. I think,
okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I
You don't have
don't-
to answer. I'm messing
I mean,
with you.
I can say that, I mean, I don't know what I would do differently, but I know that I did some things which helped me. Like at my internship, like in addition to having a manager, I also had a mentor, and my mentor was like not concerned with my project at all. So it was like anything but the work that I was doing, right? So it was more about the company and like how you can like make the best out of your internship experience. Those are the kind of conversations that I had with my mentor, and those really helped me. So like my mentor was amazing. Like she told me to like Samarth said at the beginning, she was like, yeah, like you should maintain a daily log. So I didn't know that that would come in handy so much at the end of the internship when I was preparing my presentation. But like every day at the end of the day, like I would write down what I worked on, or maybe like what bugs I ran into and like what websites helped me, because like sometimes bugs reappear or whatever. So maintaining daily logs is definitely helpful, and communicating is just like asking questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to add the daily logs thing. Yeah, that was something my manager also really liked for me to do. So I just did it as like an optional, but he really liked that I maintained, like at the time of evaluation, he had something to speak on, because I always spoke about like what I learned, what my challenges were, and overall like my highlights. That was just another optional thing. And it's something that I've used now, like in my own part-time job here on campus. It's just something that I learned that I can carry on, that pretty much helps the manager as well.
Okay. Do we have questions now? Gabrielle asks, what are some of your favorite projects that you like to mention in interviews?
For me, it has to be, I can't think of a specific one right now, but just the ones where you had a really, really big problem and how you were able to overcome the problem, or how were you able to technically overcome the problem or technically tackle the problem. And yeah, I just think it's good. Also shows the way that you think and the way that you're able to collaborate with your team on how you approach problems.
Yeah, I pulled up my resume. It looks like there was a hackathon project that I did, and we did well in the challenge. I liked the technologies, and I think it was just a good, I guess, lucky combination of teammates as well that kind of made it work. But everyone kind of knew what they had to do, and we were just all pretty in sync. So I was able to, I think, eloquently describe my contribution on that. And I think that leads to the quality versus quantity kind of thing. Don't spend all summer making to-do list apps and spend some time kind of getting deeper into a topic and just elevate the quality of your personal projects.
Yeah, I think for me,
Sorry.
you don't. Okay. I think for me, I think my experience at like my last internship, Amazon, is something I tend to bring up a lot in terms of, because for me that was kind of like an up and down roller coaster, just because the project was really tough and I had to sort of figure it out, and even like communicating in team, it didn't seem like there was that much knowledge in how to solve it, and so I like explicitly like formatted it like that that experience as like a story. And so like in behavioral interviews, it's like the curve, right? You'll do like the rising action, climax, and the falling action. I think that was nice because it kind of shows both kind of like what Paula said about how your problem solving skills are, and also like just how you sort of cope in a team and in a hard situation. So I think that was a good experience for me.
For me, I think I mentioned this before, but my Aggie Coding Club project, where I was a project manager, I think that was that's like one of my favorites to bring up, because just a lot of experiences associated with that in terms of like leadership and like working with other people. Another big one that I like to talk about is my research project, because I learned so much in that, and it taught me a lot about myself as a learner. And so I think in behavioral interviews, I've had a lot of questions about like kind of how I learn or how I tackle problems. And I think that research project was like a good way to answer those. And then also, if any of you have taken 315 Programming Studio, it's a required class, but I liked my 315 projects. I think I learned a lot of like new technologies in those, so sometimes I bring those up as well.
Cool. Okay. Ravant asked, what is the workload of an internship like, and what is your day-to-day like?
I can go. I think for me, like the first couple of weeks were a lot of like ramping up, just because like every company has their own like internal like a lot of like tools and like technologies and frameworks and stuff that they use that you're not familiar with. So in the beginning, it was like very relaxed because I had a lot of time to like go over stuff and understand just like what I was working with. I think towards the middle of the internship, or like kind of towards the end, is when you're like, oh my God, I need to get work done, because it's like midpoint evaluations are coming up. That's when things actually start piling up. So that's a lot of work. Towards the end, again, it was a bit chill because it was mostly like testing what I had already like worked on. So it was a lot of testing and like documenting and like integrating into the existing code base. So I think workload wise, probably the middle like couple of weeks, like 6 to 7 weeks are probably like more intense, but the beginning and the end was a bit relaxed for me.
I think to kind of add on to that, which I kind of I felt the same way, where the beginning was just sort of documentation and understanding things. I think it was like it's self-structured in a way where you're kind of responsible for how much work you do at any time. So it's important to kind of keep a balance for yourself, as well as just making sure you're getting your stuff done, which I struggled with a little bit. But on top of that, I think one thing that surprised me in particular about the workload is how almost little it is about just the coding. There's a lot of meetings you have to go through. You have to talk to a lot of people. Like design reviews is a thing where you have to just write this whole page about like what you're going to do before you do it, that sort of type of thing. And so like it was almost like a feeling of like by the time I was able to code, I was like, oh, finally, I actually have like a block of 3 hours where I can actually do stuff. So, but yeah, those are all just sort of something to keep in mind. It's a part of the job, and it's important to sort of gain those skills too. But yeah.
Yeah, and with internships, you shouldn't really be working, day and night on your project or like working on weekends, even if you're working for like a tech company. On your project, you should have a good amount of extra time during the day to kind of be able to speak to other employees, like being able to speak to, I don't know, some people in the higher roles about, how their job is like and what they're doing, something that you're interested in doing in the future or full time. And also being able to participate in company events. You should also have time to do that. I participated in the Facebook Global Hackathon this past summer, yeah. And I was able to do a hackathon while I was doing my internship project. So, it's all about balancing your time and being able to just also have fun with it.
Oh, I just want to add one thing real quick. The second part of the question, the day-to-day stuff, I participated in so many cool intern events. Like I had so much time to go through all of these fun events. Even though everything was virtual, I still had a lot of fun. And I actually got like some of the events were really cool. Like I got to make my own terrarium and I still have that in my room, which was really cool. And I got like a big Lego kit to like just like work on Lego with my friends. So intern events are really cool. Definitely go to those.
Yeah, and some company events are really cool. It was like some Latinx event for Facebook. I actually got to be in like the same, like their version of Zoom, it's Blue Jeans. I got to be in the Blue Jean chat with Lin-Manuel Miranda. I don't know if you guys know who he is, the creator of Hamilton. So, you also get to meet really cool people at the intern events.
That's pretty cool, actually. Wow. Samarth, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I guess I think like with day-to-day we had, I guess, like team events. One of them was called drinks and demos, and so normally they would have like boba in the office, and sometimes they would just like, okay, here's DoorDash credits and we're gonna, Uber Eats credits, and we would just like get boba and kind of talk about what we did that week or something interesting we found, which I guess is more, work. And then of course they'll have intern events. They'll bring in speakers. They didn't bring in Lin-Manuel Miranda, which would have been really cool. But yeah, I definitely participate in those. I know Microsoft brings in really cool people. I think, and then they'll have like a CEO chat as well sometimes. It'll be a little bit more restricted, of course, but sometimes they'll like bring people on to ask the question.
Cool. Okay. Maria asks if we're familiar, I think AI for all, certification in ML and CS. And she asks how valuable would you guys say it'd be?
Oh, we saw each other on mute. Okay. I guess I'll go first. So I don't particularly know the AI for all, like specifically, but I think I've seen these type of questions like, oh, I had this certificate that costs X amount. I think maybe it's free. But like let's say this is like a $300 certificate and I can get these qualifications. It really just depends on kind of what product or project you're building and how well you can articulate it. Wherever you can acquire those skills, be it in a traditional classroom setting, which I think I would suggest against. But wherever if this is a place that you can acquire skills and talk about, artificial intelligence and potentially build a project, in the span of 2 weeks or 2 months, and put that on your resume, then that I think is invaluable.
All right, Risa, I'm gonna let Risa take over. She said she did the program. If you want to unmute Risa.
Yeah, I can talk about it for a second. I'll make it quick because we only have like 3 minutes. But yeah, I did that my second semester of sophomore year. It's not really like a certification, like one of those online courses that you can say like I'm certified in ML or like whatever. It's more of like So that program, like you learn more about like, this is what AI is, this is what it can be used like to do, how it can be used to like do good in the world. You don't actually do much programming. It's more like learning about the concepts behind it. But once you do that program, you get like alumni or whatever, get like opportunity to do a second program. And that second program is an actual like portfolio project where you actually like code some sort of like I didn't actually do that, but it's like you code the like ML stuff. And then I think if you're an alumni of AI for All, they have their own specific internships that you can apply to. So I'd say like it's good to be able, like I definitely learned a lot about the general concepts, but if you want to do like the specific portfolio, that would be more like after the first like 2 months that you spend, if that answered your question.
Cool. Okay. Marielle asks, also we're running low on time, 2 minutes if we want to speed run this. Marielle asks, what if you're just not that good at coding? Does anyone want to take this?
If it's related to software engineering, there's a reason why there's 4 tracks in computer science. There's more to comp sci than just software engineering. So just find out what interests you and what you like the most and go down that path. A lot of people I meet didn't end up being software engineers. There's data scientists, data engineers, managers, consulting, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's just knowing if you don't like coding, and you suck at it and you don't think, well, you still want to go into tech, you can do stuff like that. Or if you're bad at coding, but you want to get good at coding, then, just take your own time to read on your own, ask questions to people who, anybody here, I'm pretty sure would be excited to answer one of your questions in order to get better at coding. But yeah, you don't need to know how to code in order to get into tech.
Cool. Okay. I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you, Samarth, for answering that last question. But yeah, so that concludes our tech internship panel. I want to thank the panelists so much for coming out today or joining us on Zoom. I hope a lot of people got a lot of insight and answered their questions. But besides that, we'll have an event next week. If you guys are on our mailing list, like I said, tx.ag/GDSC mail, you guys can get all the updates on our events. But besides that, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you guys later. Thank you, guys.